Hi there, this is Claire Rooney from clairerooney.com. This is my very first Facebook Live, so if I make an absolute bags of it, I will ask for your forgiveness and understanding. I'm not the most technologically gifted person. I was thinking if Bill Gates was going to score 100, I would be down at the bottom at the nincompoop level. So maybe I'm going to learn lots from this coronavirus experience, and most likely we will all learn many things during this process. Now, the reason I decided to do this Facebook live today was that I thought, well, what can I do that can contribute to people around my community, those who are interested in fitness, those who are interested in health, that will maybe bring some new insights or understanding or new perspectives on what is going on, and maybe we can learn something more about it in the process. Now, I wrote a book several years ago, and this Facebook Live is not a plug for the book, but I just think it's quite interesting how things are unfolding, and the book I feel is quite pertinent to how things are unfolding, and that's why I'm bringing it up. But this book was to do with the mind-body connection, and in it my goal was to basically show people the link between the body and mind, the fact that one cannot separate out what's happening in the body with the mental and emotional state, and that multiple systems and aspects interweave together to create what we call health, or to create what we call disease. So one of the models that I really like a lot when it comes to looking at health in this holistic way is the Ayurvedic system. So the Ayurvedic system comes from India, and for example, yoga would be one of the aspects of Ayurvedic medicine. A whole system of movement, a whole philosophy of spirituality, and many other layers. Now, in this system, the body is looked upon as a system of systems, and these system of systems can be divided up into 7 chakras or energy centers. Now, a lot of Westerners, when they hear this first, they kind of go a little bit crazy, because it sounds very new age and very, very, what's the American term, very hooey, or very, very weird. But in reality, it's almost like a story or a picture to distill very complex scientific things down into a metaphorical pictorial representation that could be much more easily understood. So the chakra system basically divides the body up into 7 principal energy centers. And those 7 principal energy centers, I have drawn a little man out here. I don't know how visible he's going to be on Facebook Live. This is my new housemate. Now, these energy centers would start at the very, very bottom, and this is the one I'm going to be focusing on mostly today. This is known as the root or base chakra. Then there's the sacral chakra at the lower abdominal area, solar plexus about the level of the diaphragm, heart chakra at the level of the heart, throat chakra at the level of the throat, and third eye right in between the eyebrows. Now, these energy systems basically govern the flow of energy into the body and how that energy is expressed. The easiest way to explain it in terms of Western science would be to look at these centers as centers of high levels of neurological and endocrinological activity. So that means nerves and endocrine producing glands or hormone producing glands. So these are basically neuroendocrine junctions. So that's, in Western science, that's the easiest way to make the parallel. So in order to have health, we want all of these neuroendocrine junctions to be healthy and well. And the most foundational system in the human body, in terms of this chakra system, is the root chakra or the base chakra. And that is why I wrote an entire book on this topic, the root or the base chakra, because I thought, look, I've been working with clients for over 17 years. I've been studying wellness, I've been studying health for over 30 years, And I've learned a lot through my own toils and struggles in health, and learned a lot with working through clients. So I decided, look, if we're going to get health right, let us start with the basics. Let's start with the foundation. Now I'm going to have a little peek. I see somebody jumped on there. This is totally new to me. Oh, there we go. I got somebody online. Good on you, James. Okay, so the foundation of our lives, our health, is built upon this root chakra. And the root chakra, in terms of the Ayurvedic system, isn't just looking at your physicality, right? Your physicality, of course, is very, very important. You know, the state of your muscles, the state of your joints, the state of your internal organs. But it also depends on mental factors, belief systems, emotions, and spiritual outlook on life as well. So physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So if we don't have health in this root chakra, or the absolute foundation for our health, the bottom line is none of these other systems are going to work well either. Now, how have we come out into such a state of disarray? Well, it's basically been the many several thousand years of living unbalanced lifestyles. We could go back to the Industrial Revolution and look at how we started mass producing foods, and starting to can foods and process foods. We could go even further back in time, but basically we changed from a society that was largely tribal, largely nomadic, living off the land, living very, very close to the land, in tune with nature, living natural cycles. When it got dark at night, we went to sleep. We weren't staying up surfing the web, because there wasn't no web back then. So everything was very, very natural and in harmony with nature. And when we were living in this very natural, harmonious way with nature, then we had a high level of health. We had other perils, of course, to try and not be eaten by other animals, and to try and find food and not starve to death. But we didn't have autoimmune disease, we didn't have the level of cancer or heart disease, and all of these other problems that we have today. Because bottom line, as we have quote unquote evolved, and this evolution is questionable to many degrees, as we have evolved on one level, technologically, industrially, we have become more and more and more disconnected from the earth, disconnected from more natural ways of living. Our way of living has become more and more artificial, and more working against Mother Nature. Now, with this COVID virus, now I'm not a virologist or an expert in these, mass diseases, but I'm just seeing that I think it's quite fascinating how Mother Nature is giving us some very, very powerful lessons through this viral epidemic. Incredibly powerful lessons. And I'm going to try and focus as much as I can on this theme of the root chakra, and try and link it into the whole COVID epidemic. So the root chakra, or this base chakra or energy center, has a theme of safety, security. So safety would be like, I just don't want to die, I want to stay alive. Security would be, can I start building up some resources so that I can kind of plan ahead and have more resources, not just for today, but for tomorrow, next week, or maybe next winter, right? Safety, security, survival, it's all similar themes, family, tribal systems, community. Because back in the day, in the caveman day, it was all about safety in numbers. If you were to stay close to your family, you had a much higher chance of surviving. So anybody who was put outside the family for whatever reasons, their likelihood of dying was extremely high. So community, tribal connections, family. That's a massive root chakra theme. And then another root chakra theme would be the connection to the earth. We are not separate from the earth. We cannot survive without the resources of the earth, without the air that we breathe, we can't survive. Without the water of the earth, we can't survive. Without the food that the earth produces, we can't survive. Without the animals on the earth that we eat, we can't survive. Without all of the raw materials to build houses and shelter, we cannot survive. We are absolutely intimately connected with the earth. The health and well-being of the earth is intimately connected with our health and well-being. If the earth is going into a state of decline like it is in our modern world, with soils being destroyed, waters being polluted, animals going into extinction, bees, populations declining, the whole ecosystem is going into a state of disarray. So if the earth is declining, we are also declining. So the root chakra is about safety. It's about sustenance, right? Being able to get food. It's about survival. It's about shelter. It's about tribal connections. The most basic human needs just to exist on this planet. The absolute basics, right? Hence the base, or hence the root. If we want to fix a problem, we have to go to the root of the problem, right? So what is this COVID virus, ringing an alarm bell on? Well, it's ringing an alarm bell on, number one, it's safety. We're not feeling safe anymore. People are waking up in a state of panic and anxiety, right? They're fearing for their lives, right? They are fearing for their loved ones, right? So our family members, our family and our tribe, be it our nuclear family, our nearest relatives, or our community, members of the community, we are in fear that our loved ones will get ill and suffer, because we don't want to see our loved ones suffer. This is very painful for us, right? What else is there also bringing up? Another huge one, security. So back in the caveman days, the whole survival business was, I just don't want to get eaten by that saber-toothed tiger. I don't want to, that was the big survival threat then. In the modern world, security boils down to money and making money. We equate that with our survival. So this is another massive alarm bell that's going off for everybody all around the world, because the whole friggin', the whole the industrial machinery, the financial machinery, has shut down or radically reduced in its output. So all of these most basic foundational factors, these alarm bells are going ringing left, right and centre. Also, what has happened as a result of this? We have got social isolation. People are being asked to stay in their homes, stay confined. Some people, like myself, I'm on my own, so this is my own little buddy of company right now. Other people are at home with their families, and that's creating a lot of problems as well, because as everybody knows, if you're around your family 24/7 on a lockdown situation, that can create an awful lot of turmoil, and any of the unresolved traumas and dramas of the family system, those can come to the brink, and they can boil over, and there can be a lot of mental and emotional stress as a result. So this COVID virus is pointing to so many issues that need to be faced in the modern world. And what I have seen, as I said, in my work over the last 17 years privately with clients, over the last 30 years on my own journey with wellness, is that almost nobody has got a solid root chakra. That this energy system, this most basic system, which dictates our physical well-being, dictates the quality and function of our muscles, joints and tissues, dictates our quality of family, quality of family relationships, and in turn dictates with how we start to relate into the world. This has been declining massively for a very long, thousands of years essentially. We have become a very head-based society. So from the heart level up, this would be in I suppose Chinese medicine terms, this would be yang energies or mental energies. From the heart down, these would be yin energies or feminine energies. So the yang energy is all about doing, action, getting work done, outward force and effort. The feminine energies are all about relaxation, retreating, nurturing, right? What did the cave woman do? You know, she was basically maybe collecting a few berries, but essentially looking after the kids, providing the nurturing and looking after the home, and the man was going out wrestling the saber-toothed tiger, bringing home the bacon, right? So what has happened in modern living is we have put a massive value on the yang energies. Now, this is not to make men wrong or make men a problem, because they're not. All men and women come from a man and a woman, so we all have masculine and feminine energies in us. But it's these yin energies, the nurturing energies, the feminine energies, the restorative energies that have been put very much repressed for the last, very, very long number of years. Hundreds of years, if not, since the Industrial Revolution. At least, hundreds of years ago, before the invention of the light bulb, once it got dark, people had to literally switch off and go home and rest. But now, since the invention of the light bulb, people can stay up till all hours of the night and just create, havoc, all sorts of neuroendocrine disruption, because people are not honouring the natural rhythms of life. And again, with this COVID epidemic, I think it's quite fascinating. People now are put into a position whereby there is less doing. A lot of people can't go to work, and maybe they can or cannot work from home, right? A lot of people are stuck with nothing to do, and all of a sudden it's about being, right? Can I sit still? Can I do nothing? Can I rest? Can I nurture? Can I move into this more yin or feminine way of being? Because the yang is all about doing, and the yin or the feminine energy is about being. So people are being forced into an environment of more stillness, more contemplation, more quietude. And this is very, very alien for the vast majority of Western society. I mean, I know I wrestle with it myself. My mind just wants to gobble up constant stimulation, and I have to practice having times of quiet. Because when we go into these times of quiet, all of our unresolved trauma, which is again very connected to this root chakra, is going to bubble up to the surface. So the root chakra is also connected to our genetics. So how the hell did we get here on this planet? We got here on this planet by our ancestors, and we inherited their genetic traits, which would account for things like eye colour, hair colour, how tall I'm going to get, how muscular I could be. But it also includes all of the traumas and dramas that our forebears experienced. So if my ancestors experienced trauma, a mark is placed on my genome so that I can be reminded in case this comes up again. So, how many epidemics have there been in since the history of the beginning of time? Like the last big one we can remember on this planet was the Spanish flu in something like 1918. So there'll be epigenetic tags, in our system to remind us of things like plague and famine. And we've got a history of famine, of course, in Ireland. So no wonder people went a bit balubas in the supermarkets for the first few weeks, because an epigenetic alarm bell goes off to say, oh my God, this isn't the first time we've encountered this, right? So many, many lessons this COVID virus is bringing us. It's getting us to slow down. It's getting us to be less busy. It's getting us to see what it's like to spend more time with our families, and hopefully, be peaceful and have harmony. But it's also creating a lot of triggers. So triggers means it's pushing a button. So the COVID virus is triggering some of our deepest fears. Our fear of death, our fear of financial loss, because we think safety and survival comes with money. And to a certain point, that is true, but it's not the ultimate truth. It's not the highest truth, right? And we're also being triggered by having lack of connection with the greater community, and maybe a lot of intensive connection with family members, and all of our unresolved issues with our family members are going to come up very, very dynamically. So what I did when I wrote my book initially was I tried to give people a little quiz to see, how healthy or unhealthy was their root chakra. Now, my root chakra was in a diabolical state when I started. I started doing this deep research into the root chakra in 2012 because I had some very high levels of stress in my own life. You know, some major safety and security alarm bells were going off. So I decided, look, I've got to dig really, really deep into this. And it literally for the last 8 years, I've been going very, very deep into this entire topic of the root chakra and how the hell do we heal it. So I came up with a questionnaire that I devised myself. Now, you know, it's just a loose questionnaire to give you an idea. It doesn't make you a good person or a bad person if you score high or low. Mine was, you know, diabolical. I realized I had to work on multiple areas in my life because ultimately at the end of the day, what is health? What is health? It's not just the absence of disease. Health is a state of well-being, feeling good in your body, feeling good in your mind, and hopefully, you know, not having any major diseases to contend with. But you know, being disease free, you know, isn't the whole story. I mean, you could have a terrible disease but have complete peace in your mind because you have reached a state of higher understanding of you know, the greater purpose of your life, maybe. Right? So bear that in mind with this questionnaire. I'm going to go through some of the questions, and as I said, it doesn't mean you're a good person or a bad person, because I don't like, you know, judgment doesn't help people. It's just pointing to some awarenesses. So there are physical aspects to this root chakra. Okay, our physical appearance. So if you could give yourself a score of a true or false for these statements as I go through them. Physical appearance. If you're very overweight or have a high level of body fat, that would be an indication of a root chakra stress. Excessive overweight or excessive underweight isn't healthy for the human body. And what we are seeing with this COVID virus is that those who have got a much higher level of body fat percentage are at greater risk, and obesity is essentially a root chakra phenomenon, albeit a very complex one. Now, the second one, I'm very underweight and would describe myself as skinny. So you would score a point if you were either very overweight or very, very underweight. The third one, in proportion to the rest of my body, my legs look very skinny. Now, this was one that I would have scored very high on. I've been working for years and years to build up my non-existent legs. My legs were like super skinny. I grew up doing gymnastics, and I would have been very much a yang female, a woman surviving in a man's world. So I built up a lot of qualities of mind and tried to avoid all of that feminine stuff, that nurturing stuff, and just survive in a man's world. So I had these big, strong, what I call my American footballer shoulders, and these skinny little legs. And that was the universe, I suppose, through my body showing me that I had a disconnection to that feminine aspect, which was critically important. And then life forced me on a journey where I had to learn how to nurture myself an awful lot more. It's a very painful journey, but you know, the pain only gets more intense the more we avoid it. All pain is basically just pushing us to learn some new awareness and to, you know, evolve our consciousness to have a, you know, a higher, more harmonious life in the long run. Okay, the next one, number 4, I have a lot of fat on my legs. So body fat, where it's stored, is actually an indication of hormonal health. So if you've got an awful lot of fat stored on the legs, that would be a hormonal imbalance. It's related to estrogen. And for example, in males, if they've got a very high level of fat on the legs, that would increase their risk of prostate cancer. And prostate cancer would be one of the diseases of the root chakra, because your prostate literally is exactly at that root chakra level. Number 5, I have no real muscle in my buttocks. In fact, I could be described as a pancake butt. I was a pancake butt many years ago, and my mentor, Charles Poliquin, who was one of the top Olympic coaches in the world in his day, he called me pancake butt in a seminar many, many years ago. And I had to go and do something to fix that. But again, for me, when I was investigating this stuff further, I saw that, oh my God, this makes perfect sense. I have a pancake butt because I am living so much in my head that all of my energy and my life force is, it's rushing up to my shoulders, it's tightening the back of my neck, and I'm very, very uptight as a person. I don't realize it because I'm just going to the gym and I'm trying to burn off all of this nervous energy, and because there was no energy flowing downwards properly into my legs and bum, I had skinny little legs and a pancake butt. So for me, that was a metaphor for the fear in my life that I had not faced, all of the things that created fear in my life and frightened me out of the seat of my pants. So many people today are living in fear, and that fear button is being pushed again ginormously. That fear button is being pushed with this virus, people's fear of death, people's fear of survival, people's fear of financial security, people's fear of losing those that they love. So that fear button is being pushed. And the thing is, if we don't face fear, fear has got a very important function. It's a survival mechanism. But if we feel fear in the moment, we will actually become cool, calm and collected, and we will know what to do. But people get, I suppose, confused between fear, which has a biological function for survival, and worry and anxiety, which is a projected fear of the future, right? Fear is something that happens in the moment and has a function to save your ass right now, right? I remember one time I was in a car crash many years ago in my first teaching job, and in a split second I realized that somebody else was driving the car. I realized that the car had hit an ice surface, a black ice, and the car was careening out of control. In that split second, a surge of fear rose through my body, and I don't know what happened to me, but I managed. I was with 2 or 3 children. I was a teacher at the time. I managed to get all of the children into a brace position before we tumbled down, off the road into a ditch. And I don't even remember doing that. But the children said, "Oh my God, Miss Rooney, you were brilliant. You were really cool. You got us all into this brace position." I don't remember doing any of that. But the fear in my body switched on a cool, calm and collected action that possibly saved people from further injury or even more. Whereas worry and anxiety is all about projecting into the future. So, now, the next one. Number 6, I'm not totally happy with how my body looks. So, there can be, a lot of that can be projection and judgment, but if our body is getting really out of shape, there'll be a deeper wisdom that knows that it's not healthy. Now, I'm not talking about vanity and the latest fashion trends of having a big ass or having a 6-pack. I'm not talking about any of that. That's a completely different issue. Something deep down will let us know if we're getting out of shape at a level that it's going to affect our health. That's kind of what I'm talking about there. Now, health. So I have a whole other raft of questions here, that will let us know if our root chakra is stressed. I'm going to go through them as quickly as possible. I never seem to have enough energy to get through the day. Number 2, I'm reliant on coffee and stimulants to get me going. Number 3, there's a history of heart disease in my family. Number 4, I pick up every bug that's going. So the more stressed our root chakra is, the more immunosuppression we will have, because there's an intimate link between stress hormone production, of which the root chakra would be the key player in stress hormone production, fight or flight hormone production. The more we're pumping out those stress hormones in a chronic way, I'm not talking about a sharp blast of stress hormone like I got in that car accident, which was enough to wake me up and take positive action. I'm talking about the chronic ongoing stress output of hormones. If we're putting out stress hormones ongoing all the time, oh my God, I'm constantly rushed, I'm constantly busy, I never seem to get enough done. This is incredibly immunosuppressive. And what we are seeing now again with this COVID virus is that the people who are the most vulnerable and have the most unfavorable outcomes with this COVID virus are the people who are already immunosuppressed. And a constant, chronic, high output of stress hormones does create immunosuppression. So one of the things that I'm recommending for all of my clients or anybody who I influence in any way is probably the most important thing you could do right now is anything that reduces your stress levels. Because reducing stress levels is probably the single best thing you can do to help your immune system. Chronically elevated stress hormones castrates your immune system. So, there's an awful lot of people pushing home workouts, and that's great and it's wonderful up to a point. But what I know from looking at social media and from tuning into people's energy and the kind of the zeitgeist, what I am feeling is an awful lot of fear and anxiety in people. And I remember reading a blog during the week. This lady was writing for a health magazine. She says, "Oh my God, my old friends are doing this home workout." And she says, "I can't find the motivation or the will to do a home workout." And I'm like, I know why that is. People don't have the motivation to work out when they're scared shitless. If you're producing tons of stress hormones, you're not only destroying your immune system, your dopamine system, your system of motivation is also castrated. So you're too fearful to do anything. So for a lot of people, the best recommendation would be to do something that's very calm, very relaxing, and just centering and anchoring. So what I've been putting out is a few little videos on Pilates, a very short one of 8 minutes, so it's not stressful in terms of time, and another little one. I said, okay, what's the easiest thing I can ask a person to do? So the easiest thing I can ask a person to do is just lie down on the ground. So I have people lying down on the ground doing 90% of the workout just lying on your back. That's the least stressful environment you could be in. When you're stressed, the last thing you want to do is jack up more stress hormones. So just be very honouring of yourself in the days and weeks ahead. If you're already a person who's very, very overstimulated with stress hormones, trying to do a very high intensive workout would not be so wonderful for you. I would be doing something more calm, more relaxing, more stretch oriented, and I would probably do more stuff like that in the weeks ahead. So now other aspects on health that will be a trigger that our root chakra is weak. Every year I take time off work due to illness. That's again immunosuppression. I suffer from high or low blood pressure. We're also seeing in the COVID virus that people are particularly susceptible to it if they've got high blood pressure. So again, this is another root chakra issue. I do not train with weights, and that would be kind of like resistance training in general, because the root chakra governs the physical body and muscle. Muscle is the organ of longevity. The more muscle we can maintain over the course of our lifetime, we have got a much higher chance of survival. We see in diseases like cancer that the more muscle mass the person has when they get it, the much more likely they are to survive. Because that muscle can be used to release amino acids to keep the most critical functions in the human body going if the shit hits the fan and you had a serious illness like that. So having more muscle is always beneficial for survival. Now, I'm not talking about turning into Mr. Olympia and having a super wacky level of muscle, which is achieved that via very unhealthy practices. But I'm talking about just maintaining as much muscle you can through some form of resistance training. Okay, other signs of root chakra problems: sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle wasting; problems with the feet, problems with the knees, problems with the hips; arthritis; inflammation, like having super high cholesterol is a sign that you're inflamed; chronic muscle tension; suffering from constipation or diarrhea; being diagnosed with colitis or another colon disorder; frequent urination, that's another example of somebody who's under chronic stress; urinary stress incontinence, another one; excessive or low libido; erectile dysfunction, which now they're calling erectile dysfunction the canary in the coal mine for many other diseases. And the root chakra is intimately connected with the heart chakra, because the root chakra being the governor of the muscle mass in your body, the heart is also a muscle. So anything that influences the root chakra also has a massive influence on the heart chakra. Osteoporosis or osteopenia, absolutely rampant in the Western world. I see a lot of women with osteoporosis and osteopenia. Now, another theme of the root chakra, again, alarm bells going off left, right and centre with the COVID: financial security. This is a huge one. I struggle to pay all of my bills every month. I have a large overdraft or credit card debt. I can't seem to control my spending and I splurge on things I can't afford. I have great difficulty turning my dreams into a reality. I grew up in a household where there was a constant poverty consciousness. I constantly worry about money, or I feel guilty if I buy something for myself. Now, money is a massive theme for so many people, and I know my alarm buttons around financial security have been majorly pressed since this COVID thing. I personally don't have a fear of death, because life has brought so many challenges to me that I'm like, oh my god, actually dying might actually be easier than some of this other shit. So for me, that button, that death button, hasn't been pressed. But the financial security button has definitely been pressed. I'm like, oh my god, I can't train my clients anymore. What am I going to do? And I'm like, okay, Claire, what you're going to do now is you're just going to feel all of the fear that comes up around that. In reality, money is not the source of my security. Source is my source, the source of all of life. Life itself is the source of my life and existence, and I'm not separate from life. So I know that on a theoretical level from all the spiritual studies I've done. So now I have to start embracing it in real time. So I'm saying thank you, coronavirus, for reminding me that very inconvenient truth that I still have issues and fears around money. And that what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to feel them, and I'm going to let them shake out of my body. And as soon as they shake out of my body, I'll get out on the other side of them. And when they come up again, which they will, I'm going to breathe some more, right? And I'm just going to let it all come up and feel the feelings. As soon as I feel the feelings, the light and the freedom is on the other side of them. It's not the feelings themselves that are the problem. It's the resistance of the feeling, the avoidance of the feeling. And we don't like those feelings of fear. Now remember, there's a difference between fear and worry and anxiety. So, feel those feelings as they arise. Okay, another theme of this root chakra. Let's see how I'm doing for time. Just the family. And as I said, with this COVID-19, people are being confined to their homes, surrounded by their family members, and a lot of buttons are being pushed. So how do you know how your relationship is with your family? These are a few questions you could ask. I have a very poor relationship with one of my parents. That would be 1 point. I have a very poor relationship with both parents. 2 points. I never knew my parents. Another point. I lost a parent at a young age. I have a difficult relationship with one or more siblings. I am estranged from my family. I minimize contact with my family. One or more family members no longer communicate with me. So this could be a time when we have time to reflect, to work on healing your relationship with your family. That's a massive, massive topic. For me personally, I feel the most important starting point for that is to look at one's relationship with one's parents. The psychologists agree that this is the most important one. If we can heal our relationship with our parents, either be they living or deceased, this is the template for every other relationship we have in our entire lives. A relationship with our family members, our parents, and everything else after that is very, very secondary. And the final area of this root chakra is environmental consciousness. We're seeing now with this COVID virus that airplane travel has been shut down, industrial output has diminished, so an awful lot of waters around the world are getting purified, and pollution is being reduced massively, and the earth is going through a cycle of regeneration already in a matter of weeks. So we can see that our we've had all sorts of excuses for this massive economic output, and we can see that in a very short period of time restoration of the earth has already begun. So Mother Nature has been putting up with a lot of destruction for a long period of time, and it's almost like she has set a master reset button. Maybe and hopefully this COVID virus will make us much more environmentally conscious, and in that way the earth will heal, and when the earth is healed and more pure, we can be more healed. Because if the earth is toxic, because we're not separate from the earth, we are also toxic. If there's toxins in the environment, those toxins are in our bodies. If the COVID virus is in the environment, we see how quickly it has passed throughout the entire world. So all the stuff that's out there is also inside in our bodies, because we are not separate from the environment. So these are all the areas we can work on to restore this root chakra. And we can restore this root chakra in many other ways, but we cannot fix a problem unless we realize that there is a problem. And what I see is that over 90% of the clients that I've dealt with, the root chakra has been the weakest one. And what I may do in the days ahead, if people are interested in, is just look at the, how the hell do I practically start healing this root chakra? Nutrition is a big one. Exercise is a big one. Awareness of family systems and how to heal family systems is a big one. Awareness of archetypes and the different archetypal roles that we play at various levels of consciousness in the root chakra is a big one. Environmental consciousness and awareness is a big one. Beliefs around money and ideas around money is a big one. So all of these areas are massive avenues for healing. Because if we are going to create and generate a new world and come out as better people and come out with a healthier planet on the other side of this, we need to make massive changes now. And we are capable of those changes. We see the massive changes that have happened already when the shit hits the fan. As human beings, we are capable of tremendous change. Maybe this is the wake-up call. Maybe this is the wake-up call that certain people needed to start taking care of their health. Maybe this is the wake-up call that people needed to start, thinking about, their whole way of work, and how they are participating in the world. Maybe this is the wake-up call a person needed to deal with their relationship with their family. Maybe this is the wake-up call that we need to start really tackling environmental issues more seriously. But as I said, we can come out of this, better on the other side of it. If you have any questions, you can type them in, and if I don't get them today because there isn't enough questions or there isn't any more people online, as I said, this is the first Facebook Live I've done, so I've just been rabbiting on, just sharing my ideas, and as I said, this will be a massive learning curve for me, and I will learn about this format if people want to do a little bit more interactions with it. As I said, I'm going to have to learn how to do that. I'm not so used to talking to a question on a screen, but as I said, that'll be a learning curve for me. And if you have any questions, you can always put them in. You can type them into the comments box, and I can answer them in a subsequent video. I just wanted to share my ideas on this as a whole theme for the planet. And as far as I'm concerned, the overriding theme is we need to get back to restoring the feminine, our feminine selves. So remember, if you're a man, you have a feminine self. If you're a woman, you have a masculine self. What does the feminine self do? The feminine self nurtures. The feminine is all about self-care, nurturing, right? Care for the earth. The feminine is about rest, relaxation, rejuvenation. All of the things that people are being forced to do by the current pandemic. We are being forced to rest. We are being forced to take time out. We are being forced to simply do nothing, which is, as I said, very, very alien to our Western minds. So we're going to learn an awful lot from this journey. And as I said, if you do have any questions in the days and weeks ahead, you can either shoot me a message on Facebook Messenger, you can put a comment at the end of this video. And if you have any topics in particular that you would like me to address, any questions, for example, you want to talk about how am I going to help my immune system, what kind of exercise should I be doing, should I be doing any exercise, any other questions that you may have, you may ask them to me, and I will help you out as best I can. Today I just gave you a quick rundown on the whole the chakra system from Ayurveda, and the way that it looks at the energy centers, and that as far as I'm concerned, this COVID pandemic is basically a root chakra alarm. We have become so cut off from our natural way of being, our natural way of existing with the earth in a co-creative way, that this is the final, Mother Earth has said, okay, this is really the last straw. We need to stop. We need to do a massive reset on how we're doing business here. So I want to thank you for joining me. As I said, it was my very first Facebook Live, so a huge learning curve for me. And if you've got more questions, if you've got any particular topic that you would like me to cover in the days and weeks ahead, then please write a comment at the end of this, or send me a direct message, and I'll be very, very happy to discuss those topics in future broadcasts. So thank you so much for tuning in. I want to wish you all a lovely rest of the day. Stay calm, stay relaxed. We're all going to come out through this the other side, and we will be so much better people. I have no doubt in my mind about it, because Mother Nature is extremely clever, and the best lessons come from our mummies. That's one thing I know for sure. So thank you all so much, and I hope to see you again really soon.